Audio Jungle.
There, this is the summary for grammar class for 8th grade for this week. So I hope you can find it very useful. So let's begin with this short summary. The topic for this week is avoiding sentences problems. You can find it on these pages. You can see it at the bottom of this slide. The segment is divided in 5 parts, which are fragments, phrase fragments, clause fragments, run-ons, and double negatives. So this is another way to express the way this topic is divided. So very quickly, we have the first part, which is fragment. And the definition says that it's a group of words that does not express a complete thought. And a fragment is only a part of the sentence. So I'm going to give you some examples of fragments. Those that are subordinate clauses, they depend on another independent clause to make sense. So we have 3. We have in the early morning, felt happy and relaxed, and the sign of the corridor. So if I want to make a complete thought or a complete sentence, I must add a more complete sentence to make them more specific. So in the first sentence, in the early morning, or the fragment, I can add independent clause, which is the flight arrived. So now together it's a full sentence, and it would be the flight arrived in the early morning. With the felt happy and relaxed, as you can see, a subject is missing here. So I can write the pronoun I, and I can say I felt happy and relaxed. Now it's a complete thought. And the last fragment, the sign of the corridor, I added something which is a predicate. So I can say the sign of the corridor is surprising. So now they're fragments, but with these independent clauses, they became a complete thought, a complete sentence. On the other hand, we have the phrase fragment, and we know that a phrase is a fragment by itself. It cannot stand alone because it doesn't have either a subject or a verb. And we know that a phrase should not be capitalized and punctuated as though it were a sentence, because they're not. So we have this example here. We know that the phrase fragment is the one that is written in green. And here we have on the morning of March 4th, which is understood as a sentence in this example, but we know that it's not. The spur left for the Arctic, period, on the morning of March 4th. Or we can use it better without a punctuation. We don't need the period. But now we have a complete thought. The explorers left for the Arctic on the morning of March 4th. So this phrase fragments cannot be understood as a complete sentence because we have already studied that they are not. Or we can have arriving at the airport, period, the princes were greeted by cheers. So this period here is unnecessary. Obviously, after the period, we need capitalization, but when we make it correctly, we don't need capital letters. So we can say, arriving at the airport, the prince and the princess were greeted by cheers. So this is the second part with phrase fragments. Now we have the clause fragments. We know that all clauses have subjects and verbs, but some cannot stand alone as a sentence. So we have this clause fragment, which is that you described, and I can say I found the necklace that you described, or when he knocked, I opened the door when he knocked, or when he knocked, I opened the door. Remember that clause fragments, or the clauses can begin the sentence, or can be in the middle, or can be at the end of the sentence. That's why we can have 2 options. Remember that clauses can begin with relative pronouns, just like that, who, whose, and some subjunctive adverbs, just like when, where, whenever, etc. We have now run-on sentences. These are sentences that are overcrowded. That means they have too much information. Maybe it's unnecessary, or that they're not properly joined or separated. Sometimes we omit or we don't know how to use the periods, the commas, or other elements that are useful to join or separate sentences. In the first example here we have with no punctuation. If I read this just like this, I use our library often, the reference section is my favorite part. Okay, that sounds too fast. It will have a period at the end. So what is missing here? I'm missing, or I need a period in this. So the correct form is to say I use a library often, period. The reference section is my favorite part. So this pause here that is given by the period is necessary. With all the comma, the Florida Keys are a chain of small islands. They're located off the southern tip of Florida. So here, I need a period. I don't need a comma here. I need a period because I am talking about, yes, I'm talking about the same topic, the Florida Keys. But remember that if we are going to use a comma here, I need a conjunction. For example, and, but, or, so, yet, etc. But this comma is unnecessary. So if I'm going to start another idea of the same topic, I need to write a period and obviously start with capital letter. Finally, we have to avoid double negatives. In English, we cannot use two words in the same sentence with the same rule. In these examples here, we cannot use double negatives. You cannot use two negative words in one sentence. So, in this column, you will find three sentences that are not well written because we have in the first sentence didn't and nobody. Didn't is the negative form of did, and nobody is a negative word because we have no. Or and haven't is the contraction have not, and no, and never and nothing. So what is the correct form to say these sentences? Instead of using nobody, I can use anybody. So I eliminated one of these two negative words. So I substituted nobody with anybody, or I have to omit didn't. So the second form is she invited nobody. Or with I haven't no time, instead of no I can use any, and I can say I haven't any time. Or to omit the word haven't and say I have no time. Finally, with never and nothing, once again, instead of no, I can use any and say anything. She never told us anything about the party. Or I can omit the word never and say she told us nothing about the party. So these are the forms that we can correct the double negatives. In the following slide, we have more, which is a practice. I didn't know nobody. He doesn't want nothing, he didn't see nothing, didn't care about nothing, and we don't know nothing. So the correct forms in the first one is I don't know anybody, or I know nobody, or he doesn't want anything, or he knows nothing. I didn't see anything, or simply I saw nothing. Why saw? Why the past form? Because did is the past of do. So if I'm going to use didn't, I have to use the past form of the main verb. In this case, the past simple of see is saw. They don't care about anything for the fourth sentence, or they care about nothing. And finally, we don't know anything, we know nothing. So these are the correct forms for each of these sentences that contain double negatives. So I hope this video can help you understand this topic a little better, and you can have a better idea in the homework that you will find on Google Classroom. So that's all by now. I'll see you next time. Bye.